What's going on YouTube? It's Chris here from Friendly Frenzy Games, and today I'm going to show you how to unlock the Master of Two-Handed Weapons achievement and trophy in Crimson Desert for completing all 6 two-handed weapon mastery challenges. Before we start, I've grouped the challenges as best I could by the location of the sealed artifacts to save you a little bit of time from backtracking to different areas across the map. Now with that in mind, if you are still relatively early into your playthrough, many of these locations might be challenging, so definitely use caution if you're tracking down these challenges earlier on, especially in those higher level areas. Also, as a note, you will need to be reasonably far in the story to actually complete these challenges, as the 3 ground-shaking impact challenges can only be completed with Unka. That's because Cliff, right now at least, cannot currently equip two-handed axes or clubs. Let's first start with Ground Shaking Impact 2 in Western Payloon. Head to this shrine along the path slightly northeast of the Vattenhall Fortress to collect the Sealed Abyss artifact. For this challenge, you'll need to defeat 10 enemies without taking damage while using a two-handed axe or club. Now this challenge is definitely a little bit more difficult, as two-hand axes and clubs are generally much slower to attack with. However, using Unka, I was able to clear this relatively easily by fighting individual enemies instead of groups, and melee units versus ranged units while using level 2 of the Raging Lightning skill in the stamina tree to knock some enemies back while keeping as much distance between me and them as possible. After you've killed your 10th enemy using a two-hand axe or club without taking damage, you can unseal the Abyss artifact to complete the Ground Shaking Impact 2 challenge. Next, let's move to Overwhelming /1 in Southern Payloon. Head to this shrine along the path slightly north of the Bellinor hunting grounds to collect the Sealed Abyss artifact. For this challenge, you'll need to hit 3 enemies at once with a longsword while your health is below 50%. Now this challenge really is quite easy to complete. Travel to a blockaded area, something like Fort Hellwood in Southern Hernand, and make sure to have your health under 50% through either fall damage or just by letting enemies hit you. Now once your health bar is less than half full, run into a large tight grouping of enemies, then use a skill like Spinning Slash or Forward Slash with a two-hand sword equipped to hit a bunch of enemies at once. As long as you can hit at least 3 enemies at once with a longsword while you're at less than half health, you can unseal the Abyss artifact to complete the Overwhelming /1 challenge. Then, slightly west of our last challenge location in Southern Payloon, we have Ground Shaking Impact 3. Head to this shrine along the Payloon and Hernand border, just outside the Trovac camp, to collect the Sealed Abyss artifact. For this challenge, you'll need to send 5 enemies flying at once while using a two-handed axe or club. Using Unka, I would highly recommend putting points into the Armed Combat skill to reach level 5 and unlock the Quick Swap skill. Then, make sure to have a secondary two-handed weapon equipped, something like a two-hand club or even a banner, and with that as your primary two-hand weapon, travel to a blockaded area and run into a tight grouping of enemies. Then hit left bumper and left trigger, or L1 and L2 together at the same time to quick swap to your two-hand axe, and this will trigger a large knockback skill to the surrounding enemies. After you've sent 5 enemies flying at once with your two-hand axe, unseal the Abyss artifact to complete the Ground Shaking Impact 3 challenge. You'll find Overwhelming /3 in the Haunted Hill region of Central Hernand. Head to this shrine along the path that runs northwest of the Goldleaf Trading Post to collect the Sealed Abyss artifact. Now for this challenge, you'll need to knock back 10 enemies while using a longsword within 30 seconds. Travel to a blockaded area, and with your two-hand sword equipped, run into a tight group of enemies and spam the Turning Slash skill by pressing right bumper and right trigger, or R1 and R2 together at the same time to send enemies flying backwards. Once you've knocked back your 10th enemy this way, as long as it was within 30 seconds, you can unseal the Abyss artifact to complete the Overwhelming /3 challenge. Next, travel further south of Hernand and you'll find Ground Shaking Impact 1. Head to this shrine along the path that's just to the east of Fort Perwin to collect the Sealed Abyss artifact. For this challenge, you'll need to land 30 hits on enemies while using a two-handed axe or club within 30 seconds. Now, you will need to have Unka unlocked and playable to complete this challenge. Then, I would highly recommend getting the Raging Lightning skill in the stamina tree to level 2 to make this challenge even easier. Travel to a blockaded area and with your two-hand axe or club equipped, run into a tight group of enemies and press right bumper and A or R1 and X at the same time to deal damage to all of the enemies surrounding you. Once you've landed your 30th hit this way, as long as it was within 30 seconds, you can unseal the Abyss artifact to complete the Ground-Shaking Impact 1 challenge. For the last challenge in the two-hand mastery set, we'll go for a bit of a hike towards the Golden Plains region in northeastern Demonis. Head to this shrine along the path slightly southwest of the Golden Gallop racecourse to collect the Overwhelming /2 Sealed Abyss artifact. For this challenge, you'll need to defeat 3 enemies with a longsword finisher without taking any damage. Travel to a blockaded area with a low level and low armored enemies and bring an upgraded longsword to increase the amount of damage done. Then all you'll need to do is use the light attack button, so right bumper or R1, when right up against an enemy to execute them with a finisher while your two-handed sword is equipped. Once you've defeated your 3rd enemy using a longsword finisher without taking any damage, you can unseal the Abyss artifact to complete the challenge and ultimately obtain the Master of Two-Handed Weapons trophy and achievement. Now that's it for this video. I hope that it was able to help you. If it did, give it a like and drop a comment. While you're here, consider subscribing to Friendly Frenzy Games for many more Crimson Desert guides just like this one.